Drop everything you think you know about life and death. Erase every belief telling you that reality is fixed, that you're just a passive spectator trapped in a predetermined story. Because what if I told you that death itself isn't an end, but a glitch in a simulation you've mistaken for reality? If reality is a simulation, then death isn't the end. It's just a glitch in the code. Forget everything you've been told. Reality isn't fixed. Death isn't final. And you're not some helpless passenger in a ride you can't control. Because what if the moment you die is just the moment the simulation reloads? Death isn't real. It's a simulation glitch. You open your eyes, but something's off. The air feels thicker. The light hits different, and the silence. It's not peaceful, it's unnatural. Like the world forgot to load properly. Last thing you remember? Blackness, stillness, no heartbeat, no breath. Then this, you're awake. Again. But in a place that doesn't feel like heaven or hell. It feels designed, programmed, familiar yet wrong. Here's the truth they don't want you to consider. What if death isn't real? What if it's just a glitch in a simulation you didn't know you were in? This isn't science fiction. It's not some fringe theory. Elon Musk said it flat out. The odds we're living in base reality are 1 in billions. Nick Bostrom, one of the most respected philosophers alive, laid it out clearly. If any civilization becomes advanced enough, they'll create simulated realities. And if even one does, those simulations will outnumber real universes infinitely. So ask yourself, what are the odds you're in the one real world? Exactly. That means death isn't extinction. It's not the end. It's just a reboot, a transfer, a shift in the code. You didn't die. You were reloaded. And deep down, you've felt this before. Déjà vu. Glitches in memory. Mandela effects. Near-death experiences that defy logic. Quantum physics that refuses to obey common sense. It all points to the same conclusion. This reality isn't what you think. And reality isn't solid. It's scripted, waiting for your signal. To understand why death is just a glitch, you need to face a deeper lie. Reality isn't fixed. It's reactive, programmable. And this isn't philosophy, it's provable. One of the clearest demonstrations, the delayed choice quantum eraser experiment. Here's what happened. Physicists built a setup where a single particle is sent toward a detector, but with a twist. Information about the particle's path can be either preserved or erased after it's already traveled. Sounds insane? It gets worse. When the path information is kept, the particle behaves like matter, taking one clear path. But when the path info is erased, the particle acts like a wave, as if it went down both paths simultaneously, creating interference. Now here's the kicker. The decision to erase or keep the information is made after the particle has already passed through. Translation. The future determines the past. The outcome changes based on how the system is observed, even after the fact. Let that land. Reality doesn't just react to your observation. It reacts to what you eventually choose to know. Causality breaks, time breaks, and the simulation gets exposed again. Because in a real physical universe, that shouldn't happen. But in a simulated, data-driven one, it makes perfect sense. This is called the observer effect, and it breaks the foundation of everything you were taught about matter, space, and time. Because if matter doesn't even behave like matter unless someone is watching, what are we really living in? Reality isn't fixed. It's responsive. Just like a video game that only renders what's in front of the player, the universe waits for your attention before it loads. Everything else? Still potential, still code, still waiting. You don't see the trees behind you until you turn around. You don't notice the sound until you focus on it. Walk into a room and suddenly feel watched. Your attention activates the environment. Ever searched frantically for something? Your keys, your phone, only to find it in plain sight, exactly where you already looked? Because the simulation didn't render it until you gave the right cue. Ever had a memory that feels like it just downloaded? A solution that appears only when you stop trying? That's not randomness. That's the system responding to focus, attention, input. In a fixed world, things exist whether you engage or not. But in this one, engagement is existence. The code waits for the player. Sound familiar? John Wheeler, Einstein's colleague, called it a participatory universe. His conclusion? Nothing is real until it is observed. Reality is co-created by consciousness. Now here's the terrifying part. If the universe only becomes real when observed, then you're not living in a solid, fixed world. You're inside something else. Something that reacts to your awareness. A simulation. And in a simulation, the body isn't you. The brain isn't you. It's just hardware, an interface, a console. Your real identity? Consciousness. And consciousness doesn't die. Roger Penrose, Sir John Eccles, Nobel-level minds, all pointing to the same thing. Consciousness is non-local. It doesn't come from the brain. It connects to something deeper, a quantum field that exists outside of space and time. So what happens when the body dies? The console shuts off, the interface goes dark, but you, the player, the signal, the consciousness, just shifts. Death isn't an ending, it's a handoff, a loading screen, a switch in servers, and here's what should keep you up at night. What if you've already died? Dozens of times. In car crashes that didn't happen, accidents you narrowly missed, situations that could have gone another way, and maybe they did. Just not in this version. What if you're shifting timelines without even realizing it? Every time your story should have ended. And that feeling of strangeness you sometimes get? The déjà vu? The sense that reality just skipped a beat? What if you've already died dozens of times, in car crashes that didn't happen, in medical emergencies that suddenly reversed, in moments where you should have slipped, fallen, drowned, burned, but didn't? What about that one time you almost got hit crossing the street? The plane you cancelled last minute that later had engine failure? The surgery that nearly went wrong but didn't? The stranger who walked away just before something felt off? What if those weren't near misses? What if those were endings in another timeline? And maybe they did happen, just not in this version. What if you're shifting timelines constantly, without even noticing, every time your story should have ended? And that feeling of strangeness you sometimes get. That heavy pause in the middle of a normal moment, that something's off sensation you can't explain. The sudden silence. The weird energy shift in the room. The feeling like you just blinked into another version of your life, and you probably did. That's your sign. You didn't survive. You shifted. Your consciousness slid into another version of the simulation. Seamlessly, silently. Just like code rerouting. Because here's the truth. You don't die. You transition. You glitch through the simulation and keep going. And the version of you reading this right now, you're the survivor. The shifter. The one who made it through, again. But what's coming next will shatter everything you still think is real. You've already died, you just don't remember. What if I told you, from your perspective, you might never actually die? Sounds insane, but it's not fantasy. It's physics. Welcome to quantum immortality. This isn't a theory pulled from thin air. It's rooted in the many worlds interpretation, a concept so powerful it broke reality for anyone who truly understood it. Physicist Hugh Everett laid it out. Every time you make a decision, any decision, the universe splits. Infinite timelines. Infinite versions of you. Each path is real. Each version exists. You pause this video, one universe. You keep watching, another. You walk left instead of right, another split. Now here's the mind-shattering part. What happens when the moment isn't small? What happens when the next split is life or death? You're in a car, it's spinning. Impact is seconds away. In one universe, you die, but in another, you survive, just barely, a miraculous escape, and your consciousness. It only keeps going in the version where you survive. That's quantum immortality. From your perspective, you never die. Your mind just slides, silently, instantly, into the next version where you're still alive. Think about the close calls you've had, the accident that almost happened, the illness that should have taken you, the fall, the crash, the near miss that left you wondering how you made it out. You didn't get lucky. You shifted. You slipped into the timeline where your story kept going and left behind the one where it ended. And from the outside, in that other timeline, maybe they buried you, maybe they cried, but you didn't experience it. Your consciousness never dies, it just jumps. Still think this is far-fetched? Physicist Max Tegmark laid it out with a thought experiment: quantum suicide. You sit in front of a quantum device, it flips the spin of a particle, 50-50. If it lands up, you live. If it lands down, you die instantly. Run the test once, 2 universes split, one where you're dead, one where you're alive. Run it 1,000 times, you'll always find yourself alive. Every single time. Because your awareness can only continue in the versions where you survive. In every other branch, someone else buries your body, but you don't feel that version. You don't see the end. You simply wake up. Again, and again, and again. You are immortal from your point of view. Now, before your brain tries to reject this, ask yourself, if death is just the body shutting down, but consciousness is non-local, then where does you actually go? Answer: you never go anywhere. You just wake up in the next version where your avatar kept running. And when you see others die, that's your timeline, your path. But their awareness, still going, just not with you. They didn't vanish. They shifted, and now you're starting to see the glitch. Death isn't real. It's a transition point, a failed rendering, a hard reset in the simulation. And you've already jumped more times than you know. That miracle recovery, that near-death experience, that feeling that something in the universe just changed. It did, and you're the only one who noticed. So if death can't touch you, why keep living like it can? We're not done yet, because now we step into what the ancients knew. The mystics, the near-death survivors, the people who left this world and came back changed. What they saw confirms everything, and it will take this truth to a whole new level. Ancient civilizations knew death isn't real. It's a shift. You think simulation theory is new? Think again. Long before computers, before quantum physics, before the internet, they knew. Ancient cultures didn't just believe in life after death. They mapped it, described it, trained for it. Because death isn't an end, it's a transfer, a system reboot. Let's start in Egypt. See, the Egyptians didn't fear death, they prepared for level 2. The Egyptians obsessed over the afterlife, not because they feared it, but because they understood it. To them, death wasn't extinction, it was an ascension, a jump to a higher layer of the system. The Book of the Dead reads like a gamer's guide to the afterlife. Stages, tests, gates, realms of consciousness. It was never about dying, it was about navigating the next layer. Sound familiar? A soul leaves the body and enters a new realm. Dynamic, reactive, shaped by intent and awareness. That's not fantasy, that's a simulation. They believed precise rituals could influence the transition, like entering the right code before a software update. Embalming wasn't superstition. It was programming the avatar for a smoother upload into the next world. They weren't burying bodies. They were prepping consciousness for transition. Head east, ancient Tibet. The Bardo Thodol, what the West calls the Tibetan Book of the Dead, describes exactly what happens after you die. You don't vanish. You enter the Bardo, an in-between state that's unstable, shifting, and fully responsive to consciousness. Sounds like a hallucination, or like a simulation engine waiting for the next program to load. The bardo is glitchy, illusory, molded by thoughts and emotions. Monks trained for decades to remain conscious during death, because they knew that awareness during the transition meant freedom. Lucid dreaming, simulation awareness, state control. They weren't just spiritual warriors, they were simulation navigators. And the ancient Gnostics didn't just hint at it, they said it outright. This world, fake, not metaphorically, structurally, crafted by a false god. A trap, a prison for consciousness. A digital illusion designed to keep you blind to your power, your origin, your role in the system. Sound like the Matrix? Because that's exactly what it is, only older, by thousands of years. The Gnostics saw it first. They called the architect of this fake world the demiurge, a lower entity posing as the true god, a fraud. It created a false reality, material, dense, limiting, to trap divine consciousness in flesh, in fear, in cycles, life, death, rebirth, repeat, all while keeping you unaware that you are not the avatar, you are the player. And to the Gnostics, death wasn't defeat, it was escape, a jailbreak, a return to source, a glitch that let you slip out of the code and back into real awareness. The Hermetics backed it up. As above, so below. Most people quote it. Few actually get it. It doesn't mean heaven looks like earth. It means your inner world renders your outer experience. Your thoughts write the rules. Your beliefs generate structure. Your frequency shapes what loads in next. Change your mental code. The simulation updates in real time. Ever noticed how your world shifts when you shift internally? You finally let go of someone toxic and your physical health improves. You raise your standards and old patterns vanish overnight. You start believing you're worth more, and money, respect, opportunities start showing up. That's not coincidence. That's simulation response. Even Plato saw the code. In his allegory of the cave, Plato describes a brutal truth. Imagine people chained inside a cave since birth. They can't move. They can't turn their heads. All they've ever seen are shadows on the wall in front of them, cast by objects behind them in front of a fire they've never seen. To them, the shadows are reality. That's all they know. That's all they've ever seen. Then one person breaks free. They stand up, turn around, and for the first time, they see the fire, the puppets, the real objects casting the shadows. At first it hurts. The light is blinding, disorienting. But then they walk out of the cave, and they see the sun, the source, the actual light, the real world, not shadows, not projections. And when they go back to tell the others, they're mocked, rejected, even threatened, because the others are still trapped, still staring at the wall, still believing the illusion. Now ask yourself, what if death is that moment? What if the moment your body dies, you finally turn around, step out of the cave and realize none of this was ever solid? Not the job, not the body, not the fear, not even time. It was all projected, all programmed. A simulation tuned to your awareness, rendered only as much as you were ready to see. Death isn't darkness, it's light. Not the end of your story, just the part where you stop watching shadows and finally see the source. 4 ancient truths that break the illusion. Let's break it down. 4 ancient truths that shatter the illusion. Egypt. They didn't see death as the end. They mapped the afterlife step by step, like a dimensional upgrade. Tibet. They called it the bardo, a space between lives, fluid, reactive, like a simulation waiting to load your next mission. The Gnostics and Hermetics. They said this world, it's a trap, a projection, a false layer meant to blind you from your true self. And Plato, he said life is just shadows on a wall. Death? That's when you turn around and see the light, the source, the real world beyond the illusion. They knew. Thousands of years ago, without science or tech, they reached the same conclusion physicists are arriving at now. Reality is simulated. Death is a transfer. Consciousness is the constant. You don't die. You shift. And they trained for it. Still think it's just a myth. Next, we enter modern proof. Near-death experiences backed by clinical data. People who flatline, brain dead, no pulse, no oxygen. And yet, they came back with knowledge that breaks everything. Get ready, because next, we prove it. Near-death experiences are the glitch they can't explain. Forget philosophy. Forget speculation. This isn't just theory, it's evidence. Doctors, scientists, neurosurgeons, all documenting something they shouldn't be able to explain. People clinically dead, flatlined, returning with knowledge they couldn't have. Consciousness leaving the body, seeing from outside it, and coming back. Memories of something beyond. Something the material world refuses to acknowledge, because if they did, they'd have to admit. Death is a transition, a shift, a glitch in the simulation. Dr. Eben Alexander was no believer, a Harvard-trained neurosurgeon, a strict materialist. To him, consciousness was just the brain firing neurons. Death was the end. Then he died. In 2008, a rare bacterial meningitis shut down his brain. Zero activity, no dreaming, no hallucinations. His neocortex, the part that creates consciousness, was offline. Yet, he experienced more than ever before. He traveled through layers of reality. He saw beings of pure consciousness. And when he came back, he was no longer a skeptic. His words, "I was a speck of awareness on a butterfly's wing, traveling through realms far more real than anything I'd ever known. More real than this world." That's the glitch. When the brain stops, the real world loads. Now, to Anita Moorjani. Terminal cancer. Body shut down. Doctors gave her hours to live. Then she left. She floated above her body, watched the doctors, saw events happening miles away, events that were later confirmed to be real. Then the impossible happened. She came back, no medical explanation, no logic. Her consciousness returned, but her body was restored. That's not recovery. That's a system reboot. Like her code was rewritten when she re-entered the simulation. Still think this is random? Science can't explain it, but they can't deny it. Dr. Raymond Moody, Dr. Pim van Lommel. These aren't mystics, they're medical professionals, and they've documented thousands of these cases. Same story, different people. No brain activity, no heartbeat, no chance of awareness. Yet these people return describing exact conversations in the operating room. Details of medical instruments they never saw. Events happening outside the hospital confirmed as real. How? Because consciousness isn't inside the brain. The brain is just the interface, a console logging into a larger system. When it shuts down, the real system is still there. And some people come back with access to the source code itself. Thousands of near-death survivors report the same phenomenon. A flashback of their entire life. But not like a memory, more like a simulation playback. They don't just see it, they re-experience it. They feel not just their own emotions, but the emotions of others. It's as if their consciousness is reviewing data stored in the system. Think about this carefully. Why would a brain, shutting down, play a full interactive review of every moment of life? It wouldn't. Unless reality records everything. Your consciousness is accessing that stored data. You're inside a simulation, reviewing your session before moving on. Sound far-fetched? Even The Lancet, one of the most respected medical journals, admits they cannot explain this. Because if reality is a simulation, this is exactly what we'd expect to see. Every NDE points to the same undeniable truth. Consciousness is not trapped in the brain. It's non-local. It exists beyond the body. When the physical form dies, You don't disappear. You move. Some return. Some reboot. Some shift into a new reality without even realizing it. And that means you've already shifted. You've already died in other timelines. You just didn't notice, because your awareness only follows the path where you survive. Next proof, you've already jumped realities. Mandela effects, déjà vu, memory glitches that science can't explain. They're all evidence of past deaths you never noticed. You remember something clearly, a movie quote, a name, a logo. You'd bet your life on it, but when you check, it never existed. Not the way you remember it. You're not crazy. You're not confused. You've just experienced a reality glitch. Welcome to the Mandela effect, the smoking gun of simulation theory. The Mandela effect isn't a mistake. It's a signal. It started with Nelson Mandela. Millions remember him dying in prison in the 1980s. Funeral footage, news anchors, emotional tributes. But none of it ever happened. Mandela didn't die in prison. He became president, lived until 2013. So how did millions remember it wrong? They didn't. They remembered a different version of the simulation, a different timeline, a different server. And just like that, you're not in base reality anymore. You shifted. You survived something your memory doesn't fully explain. The Mandela effect isn't just a glitch. It's proof. Proof that reality can rewrite itself. Proof that death doesn't end the story, it just changes the level. And you're already playing the next version, whether you remember the shift or not. But what if these Mandela effects aren't mistakes, but evidence of timeline shifts? Think in terms of software. What happens when you update a program? It changes, adjusts, patches bugs. Now imagine reality does the same thing. Consciousness doesn't stay in one fixed timeline. It moves, shifts, glitches. And when it does, some of us carry over residual memory from the previous version, like fragments of code that didn't get fully overwritten. That's the Mandela effect. It's not you misremembering, it's you remembering what actually happened in a previous timeline. Like ever hear that a celebrity died, but then they show up on TV alive? Betty White, Billy Graham, Muhammad Ali. Thousands of people remember them dying years before they officially did. They even recall details, dates, headlines, tributes. But somehow those deaths never happened, in this version of the simulation. Why does this matter? Because death is a collective event. It affects millions. It creates emotional memory. So when timelines shift, celebrity deaths become the most noticeable glitches. You're not imagining it. You're just not in the same version of reality anymore. Quantum mind, multiple realities. Physicists like Michio Kaku confirm it. Your consciousness isn't trapped in one version of the universe. It's quantum, operating across multiple states at once. Sometimes those alternate versions bleed through. That wrong memory you have, it's a real memory, from a version of reality that no longer exists. And that means something terrifying and powerful. You've already shifted, multiple times. Mandela effect. Personal proof. You've glitched. Ask yourself, have you ever remembered something so vividly, only to find it never happened? And have you felt like the world suddenly felt off? Slightly different, like something changed overnight? Or have you experienced that moment of, wait, wasn't it always like this? That's your code flickering. That's you catching the simulation mid-edit. The Mandela effect is your confirmation that reality isn't fixed, and you've already survived. Multiple timeline jumps, and death is the biggest Mandela effect of all. Now here's where it gets real. What if death is just a more dramatic version of the same phenomenon? A massive shift, a hard reboot, a simulation-level update. From the perspective of others, you die. They mourn. But you don't experience death. You shift. You wake up in another version, where you survived, where life just continued. And all that remains of the past version is a weird, vivid memory you can't explain. That's what death really is. A Mandela jump, a clean shift to a parallel version. So what does this mean for you? It means your reality isn't fixed. It's fluid. Death isn't real. It's a code-level transfer. The Mandela effect is your personal evidence that this world glitches, and you've already slipped through it. Next, we're unlocking even more confirmation. Déjà vu. Past life bleed through. Glimpses of other simulations. They're not imagination. They're data packets leaking through the code. You're about to find out just how far you've already traveled. Stay locked in. The simulation is unraveling. Let me ask you something real. Have you ever walked into a room and knew you'd been there, even though you hadn't? Felt a moment unfold exactly as you remembered it. But you were sure it never happened before? That's not imagination. That's not a brain glitch. That's you remembering a timeline you left behind. Déjà vu is a memory bleed from a parallel you. Neuroscience says déjà vu is a misfire. The brain gets confused, mistakes the present for the past. But that doesn't explain how real it feels, how precise, how unshakably familiar. Quantum theory says something different, something much more dangerous. Déjà vu is you touching another version of your life. Physicist Michio Kaku puts it bluntly. The brain is not just a biological machine. It's a quantum receiver, linked to multiple timelines. And sometimes, the signals cross. That moment of déjà vu, that's the signal leak. A trace of a moment you've already lived, somewhere else. And now about past lives. They are your consciousness leaving. Breadcrumbs. You've heard stories. Kids remembering lives they never lived. But this isn't fantasy. It's documented science. Dr. Ian Stevenson, Dr. Jim Tucker, University of Virginia. Thousands of verified cases of children remembering past lives, with detail. Example, James Leininger, a little boy in Louisiana. He starts having nightmares, plane crashes, war, fire. He names the ship he flew from in World War II. He names real pilots he served with. He recalls details no child should know. Investigators confirm every single one. It all checks out, every last detail. So how is this possible? Simple. Because he didn't forget. His consciousness carried data from one simulation into the next. You are the software running on multiple simulated servers. You're not just here. You're everywhere. Your consciousness? It's like code running across multiple simulations. And sometimes, that code leaks. A flash of déjà vu. A past life memory. A strange connection to someone you've just met. These aren't random. They're signs. Signs that you've been here before, just not in this version. You feel it, you just don't know what to call it. Ever felt that strange shift? Like something changed, but you can't explain what? Ever met someone and felt like you've known them for lifetimes? That's not coincidence. That's the simulation syncing up. That's residual data surfacing between timelines. Quantum physicists call it the superposition of states, multiple realities existing at once. Your consciousness just shifts which one it's tuned into. Remember the core truth. Death is just a shift. Now tie it back to the glitch. You've already slipped between realities, through déjà vu, past life, bleed through Mandela memories. So why would death be any different? It's not. It's just a bigger shift, a more dramatic reboot. One moment you're here, the next you're alive in another version. No trauma, no pain, just transition. And every past life, every déjà vu, every flash of familiarity. Proof. You've done this before. Many times. You just keep waking up in the timeline where you survive. What does this mean for you? Right now? If you knew death wasn't real? If you knew you'd already crossed timelines hundreds of times? Would you still live small? Would you still play scared? Or would you go all in? Because here's the truth. You are eternal. Your story never ends. This life? Just one version of you. In one simulation. For now. You are not here to survive. You are here to shift freely, consciously, fearlessly. You've seen the glitches, you've felt the jumps, You've remembered what they told you to forget. Now it's time to see the blueprint behind it all. The holographic universe theory, where physics finally admits nothing is solid and everything is code. The holographic universe. Death is just a data transfer. You die, but nothing goes black. Nothing fades. Instead, you wake up somewhere else. Another version of reality, another timeline, another layer of the simulation. You don't disappear, you transfer. And physics is finally catching up to this truth. The universe isn't real, it's coded data. Physicist David Bohm saw it first. He realized the universe doesn't behave like a collection of separate objects. It's one system. Interconnected, non-local. A projection from a deeper, hidden layer of reality. A hologram. What's a hologram? A 3D image projected from encoded data. Cut it into pieces and each piece still contains the whole image. Every fragment holds the entire structure, just at a different resolution. That's how reality works. Every moment, every place, every event, it's all encoded information. You are not just a body, you are data inside a larger system. The simulation blueprint. Reality is projected information. Physicists Leonard Susskind and Gerard 't Hooft took Bohm's work further. The universe isn't solid. It's a projected information field. Your brain doesn't create consciousness, it decodes the data stream. Everything you see, touch, experience, it's a high-resolution simulation, running in real time. Think about video games. The world inside the game isn't real. It's a projection from code running elsewhere. Your consciousness, the player, just interacts with it. So what happens when your character dies? Does the player die? No. The player just disconnects from that avatar. And in a holographic universe, your body is the character. Your consciousness is the player. When the character dies, the player moves on. Death equals a holographic server switch. Now take it deeper. Imagine playing a game. Your character dies. The screen fades. But instead of starting over, you wake up in another version of the game. Slightly different, slightly altered, but you're still there. That's what death really is. Your consciousness doesn't end, it shifts servers. One timeline closes, another one loads, seamlessly, instantly. Your awareness? Still intact? Death isn't extinction, it's a data transfer. Quantum entanglement, you are never disconnected. Quantum physics proves everything is linked. Particles that were once connected stay instantly linked, no matter how far apart they are. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. But in a holographic universe, it's not spooky. It's how the system works. All information, all energy, all consciousness, it's entangled. That means your consciousness never truly separates from the system. When your body dies, your awareness remains entangled with the field. You don't vanish, you relink to another version of reality. Death is nothing more than shifting perspectives within the holographic database. Reality is a fractal, and so is death. Look around you. Galaxies look like neural networks. Rivers and blood vessels branch identically. Hurricanes and spiraling DNA follow the same mathematical curves. Patterns repeat infinitely. And what is death? Another repeating transition, another fractal shift. A movement from one version of reality to the next. You've done this before, countless times. Every life, every timeline, every shift. Personal proof you've already touched the source code. Ever had a dream so vivid, so real, you woke up wondering which world was the simulation? And ever experienced synchronicities, moments too perfect to be random, like reality was scripted just for you, or sudden knowing? You don't know how you know, you just do. An answer, a warning, a direction, instant, unexplained, dead on. These aren't flukes, they're glitches in the matrix and you noticed. That's your signal. You've already brushed against the source code. You've probably experienced the source code. That moment where reality feels too perfect, too planned, too precise. Because it is. The final revelation, fear of death, is a lie. Now, pause. Really take this in. If death is just a data transfer, why live in fear and why hold back? Or why waste time living small? You are not here to survive. You are here to experience, to shift, to wake up. Because when this version of the game ends, you'll wake up in the next one. Now, how to hack the simulation and shift consciously. This knowledge isn't just about understanding death, it's about using it. Can you control reality shifts? Or can you break free from unwanted timelines? And can you rewrite the simulation while you're still in it? Yes. And next, you'll learn how. Stay locked in. The real power is about to be revealed. How to consciously shift realities. Start playing the game for real. You've seen the signs, you've felt the glitches, you've remembered what they told you to forget. Now it's time to stop reacting to the simulation and start rewriting it. Because here's the truth. Your consciousness shapes the code. Every thought, every emotion, every belief, inputs, and the simulation responds accordingly. So if you've been living the same cycles, same fears, same limits, it's because your default programming is stuck on repeat, but not anymore. Let's break it. Reality equals responsive code. Your thoughts aren't passive. Your emotions aren't random. They're commands, instructions, sent directly into the quantum field, the system. The universe isn't out there doing its own thing. It's waiting for you to give it direction. That's what quantum physics already proved, the observer effect. What you focus on becomes real. Where you place your attention collapses potential into form. So why live like a victim when you're actually the coder? The simulation rules how you shift reality. Think of the universe like a game engine. Your attention equals where your avatar moves. Your emotions equals the commands you input. Your beliefs equals the rule set defining what's possible. Want a new outcome? Change the code. Practice 1. Quantum visualization. This isn't daydreaming, it's direct manipulation of the field. Step 1. Define the timeline you want. Clearly, specifically. Step 2. Feel it. Not hope. Not want. Live it emotionally. Step 3. Repeat. Daily, for 10 to 20 minutes. Lock it in. Your emotional state is the key. The stronger the feeling, the stronger the command signal to the simulation. Feel abundance? The simulation responds. Feel courage? It aligns. Feel fear? It echoes that back to you. Practice 2. Quantum journaling. This is next-level coding. At night, write your life as if it's already real. Use emotion, use detail, use certainty. In the morning, reread it, reinforce it, reprogram yourself. You're aligning conscious intention with subconscious belief. And when those two sync, the simulation bends. The secret sauce. Detachment equals dominance. Here's what no one tells you. Reacting emotionally to your current reality locks it in. Get angry about your situation, you reinforce it. Get desperate for change, you push it away. But when you stay calm, neutral, detached, you starve the old code. You stop feeding the glitch. Detachment isn't apathy, it's mastery. You're not ignoring what is. You're choosing not to energize what you don't want. And when you stop reacting, the simulation updates. Reality shifters already do this. The placebo effect? Belief so strong it changes biology. Olympians visualizing victory so vividly their bodies respond like it's already happened. Manifestors who bend luck and coincidence by emotional alignment alone. They're not lucky. They're in control. Apply this to death and become limitless. Now picture this. You no longer fear death because you know it's a shift. You wake up each day with courage because nothing can destroy you. You feel bold, alive, free, because you've hacked the rules. Death stops being a threat. It becomes a checkpoint, a level change, a new simulation. And that changes everything. You're already shifting. Now do it consciously. You've already slipped timelines. You've already bent the rules. You've already left behind versions of yourself you don't remember. Now it's time to do it on purpose. Reality isn't happening to you, it's happening because of you. Next, rewrite the source code, your subconscious. You're running code you didn't write. Old beliefs, conditioned fears, programs installed before you ever woke up. But what if you could edit the script? Next, we go deeper, into the subconscious operating system, and how to reprogram it to match the reality you actually want. Stay sharp, because this is where mastery begins. Rewrite the code. Your subconscious is the real architect. Let me ask you something real. If you already know reality responds to consciousness, if you understand death is just a shift, why hasn't your life fully changed yet? Here's the answer. Because your subconscious is still running old code. The 95% rule. You're not in control yet. Right now, your subconscious mind controls 95% of your actions, reactions, perceptions, and decisions. It's your hidden operating system, and here's the twist. It doesn't care what you want. It only runs what you've fed it repeatedly. Beliefs, emotions, fears, habits. The subconscious doesn't think. It executes. Your beliefs equal reality's blueprint. This is where simulation meets psychology. Believe you're powerless, the simulation mirrors that. Expect failure. Your subconscious will build it for you. Know you're limitless? Watch how fast reality bends. Your subconscious is the quantum interface, the middle layer between you and the code, and it's programmable. Emotion plus repetition equals subconscious rewrite. Want to change your simulation? Speak your subconscious's language. Emotion, strong, consistent feeling. Repetition, daily reinforcement. Imagination, visual intensity. This isn't mindset, this is neural rewiring, reality remapping. And it works. Neville Goddard knew feeling is the secret. Forget wishful thinking. Neville cracked the system decades ago with one principle. Live from the end. Pick the reality you want. Feel it now like it's already yours. Dwell there until it becomes natural. Your subconscious doesn't argue, it doesn't analyze. It just accepts what you feel repeatedly. Then the simulation catches up. Daily dominance, how to program the field. Morning emotional priming. Start your day in full gratitude. Feel the reality you want, as if you're already living it. Affirmation looping. Throughout the day, affirm your new script. I am abundant. I am powerful. I live fearlessly. I shift reality effortlessly. Night visualization. Right before sleep, lock in your new simulation. See it, feel it. End your day already inside the next level. Repeat. Lock it. Reinforce it. Detach to delete old code. Here's how you kill the old programming. When fear, doubt, or old patterns show up, don't engage. Observe. Stay neutral. Let it burn out from lack of energy. Install new beliefs on top daily. Over time, the old script dies from emotional starvation. This isn't suppression, it's command-level awareness. You're choosing what runs your simulation, not by force, but by focus. Emotions equal your signal to the simulation. Fear, guilt, shame. Low frequency equals low outcome. Gratitude, joy, power. High frequency equals high reality. So stop waiting to feel good after things change. Feel good now, and the simulation changes because of it. That's how the system was built. Live from the end, and everything catches up. Imagine living every day like you're already safe, already limitless. Death doesn't scare you because it's just another shift. You're the architect, not the NPC. No more reacting, no more default settings, just clear vision, emotional command, consistent override. You're not just surviving this simulation, you're shaping it. Next, escape linear time and jump the system. You've taken control of the subconscious. Now it's time to break the final illusion, time. Because once you understand how to exit linear time, you'll discover how to jump timelines instantly. Stay locked in, this is the leap. Time isn't real, and you never needed it. Here's your next wake-up call. Time is the biggest illusion of them all. You've been taught to crawl through life like it's a straight line. Birth, struggle, progress, death. But that's not how the simulation actually works. Time isn't a law, it's a setting, and physics already proved it. Time isn't linear. Quantum physics doesn't just question time, it destroys it. At the quantum level, past, present, and future coexist. Einstein himself showed time is flexible, subjective, not fixed. Time slows down, speeds up, even bends based on perception. So why do we live like we're stuck in a straight line? Because your brain needs a story, a sequence, but your consciousness doesn't. In deeper reality, everything is happening now. Your future isn't in front of you, it's next to you. Right now, there are infinite versions of you. The one who's already healed, the one who already made it, the one who's already fearless, free, and fulfilled. You don't have to work your way there. You don't have to earn it. You just have to shift into it. Because all those versions of you already exist. Quantum leaps aren't metaphor, they're blueprint. Particles don't move from point A to point B. They jump instantly, no in between. Your consciousness can do the same. You've done it before, sudden insights, dramatic breakthroughs, instant healing, miraculous coincidences. You didn't grind to that outcome. You leapt into a new timeline. That's how shifting works. Practical reality shifting equals time collapse. Here's how to do it with precision. Lock in the new reality. Define exactly what you want. No fog, no vagueness. Be clear. Feel it now, not someday, not when it happens. Feel the emotions as if it's real, because it is. Let go of how and when. The simulation doesn't need your step-by-step plan. It just needs your signal. Your belief plus emotion equals quantum coordinates. That's how the system knows where to drop you. Real proof. Timeline jumps happen daily. You've seen it. People heal from terminal illness overnight. A single conversation changes someone's entire life. Chance encounters create instant success or love. You just knew something was about to happen, and it did. Linear time didn't deliver those moments. A shift did. Death isn't a process. It's a snap. Still worried about death? Don't be. If time isn't linear, then death isn't a slow fade. It's a click, a jump cut. You're in one timeline. Then you're in the next. Seamless, silent, instant. Just like every déjà vu, every Mandela effect, every intuitive moment you've ever had. You've already shifted realities thousands of times. Death is just the next jump. Daily practice, quantum time collapse. Do this every day. Visualize your ideal life as already real. Feel the emotions right now, as if you're living it. Say this out loud. Time doesn't limit me. My reality already exists. I will shift into it now. Repeat until your subconscious lets go of the clock. And when it does, everything speeds up. So what happens next? Fear dies. Now that you know, time is an illusion. Death is just a transfer. Reality shifts based on your state. There's nothing left to fear. Next, we break fear completely. You'll learn how to live like the simulation can't touch you, because it can't. No more doubt, no more hesitation, only power. Fear is fake. and you've been living under its spell. You've come this far. You know the truth. Death is just a shift. Time is an illusion. Reality responds to you. Now here's the final trap to break: fear. Because fear has been running your simulation from the shadows, keeping you small, silent, paralyzed. But fear isn't real, it's just code, another script baked into the game. Why fear exists in the simulation? Fear was useful once, primitive survival. But in the simulation, it's a control mechanism. It keeps you obsessed with safety, trapped in routine, worshipping comfort and avoiding risk. And the root of all fear? Death. But now you know. Death is just a handoff, a timeline jump, a data shift. Fear loses its grip the moment you see through it. How to delete fear from your codebase. Here's how to burn fear out of your system permanently. Call it out. Next time fear shows up, say this: this is just simulation code, not reality. That alone cuts its power in half. Refuse to react. Fear wants your energy, your reaction. Don't give it anything. Stay calm. Observe. Starve the program. Replace it with direct action. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing the thing anyway. Every time you move toward fear, you prove it can't hold you. That's how the loop breaks. Your brain will rewire to fearlessness. This isn't just mindset fluff. Neuroscience. The brain literally rewires through repetition and exposure. Quantum physics. Your emotional frequency shapes your simulation. Fear energy equals limiting realities. Courage energy equals expanded timelines. So stop waiting to feel ready. Act and let your mind catch up. Daily practice. Visualize your fearless self. Every day, close your eyes. See yourself speaking boldly, taking risks, moving through life like nothing can break you. Feel it. Confidence, power, freedom. Do it until it stops feeling like visualization and starts feeling like memory. Because in some timeline, that's already you. Now you're just syncing with it. Real proof. Fearless living is the edge. Elon Musk. Risks everything. Talks simulation theory publicly. No fear. Full moves. Mandela. Imprisoned for decades. Comes out and leads a nation. You. About to stop playing small. They didn't wait for fear to leave. They moved anyway. Start living like you can't be killed, because you can't. Once you know death is a shift, fear has no leverage. That dream you keep putting off, that conversation you're scared to have, that leap you've been avoiding, do it. You're not here to be safe. You're here to be sovereign. Daily affirmation for fearless living. Start your day with this: I am fearless. Death is just a shift. Reality bends to my consciousness. I move boldly, speak freely, and live fully. Say it. Feel it. Own it like it's already coded into you. The challenge: prove you're free. Pick one thing you've been avoiding because of fear. Now do it, within 24 hours. After you do, say this: fear no longer controls me. I shift my simulation by choice. That one move rewrites your subconscious, and the simulation responds. Next, master the system. Permanent control. Fear is dead. Time is gone. Death is irrelevant. Now it's time to master the rest. Emotional frequency. Subconscious precision. Quantum level control. You're not just a player anymore. You're writing the rules now. You're not the character anymore. You're the architect. You made it. You've torn through every lie the simulation fed you. Death is just a transition. Time is a setting. Fear is a code. Reality is your reflection, and your subconscious runs the system. Now comes the final shift. This is where you stop reacting and start rewriting. Step 1. Stop being the character. Start being the coder. Most people are locked in. They move through life like NPCs, reactive, emotional, confused. But you've seen behind the curtain. You know the character isn't in control. The coder is. Every thought you think, a command. Every emotion, a signal. Every belief, an instruction to the system. Your subconscious doesn't argue. It just runs the script. So stop feeding it stories you don't want to live. Start feeding it the ones you do. Step 2. Install a new core program. Your old internal OS was built on survival, fear, and limitation. Time to delete it. Here's your new internal script. My consciousness shapes my reality in real time. I am the observer, the coder, and the creator. I no longer react to the simulation. I rewrite it. My beliefs are the code. My emotions are the fuel. I choose what to render into my world. Burn it into your mind. Say it until it runs on autopilot. Step 3. Master your frequency or get played. The simulation doesn't care what you say, it responds to what you broadcast. Your frequency is your access level. Low frequency equals locked doors, struggle, resistance. High frequency equals open pathways, synchronicity, flow. So tune in. Gratitude, clarity, confidence, calm power. Hold that state, and reality bends to meet you. Step 4. Collapse the old timeline. You can't code a new reality while defending the old one, so stop talking like you're stuck. Justifying why things can't change. Telling stories that don't serve you. Every time you repeat the old narrative, you're keeping that version of you alive. Let it die. Collapse the glitch. Move. Step 5. Daily neutral observer mode. You want real control? Don't react. Every time you stay neutral in the face of chaos, you pull your power back. That's why Stoics, monks, and mystics all mastered detachment. They weren't cold. They were coded correctly. You stop reacting. You stop leaking power. You start commanding the system. That's what the simulation responds to. Stillness backed by certainty. Step 6. Live from the end. Now. Stop waiting. Feel it now. Act like it's already done. Speak from the reality you want, not the one you're in. Because reality doesn't respond to who you used to be. It responds to who you believe you are right now. So walk like the architect. Think like the creator. Feel like the shift has already happened. Because when you do, it has. What happens when you own this? Reality obeys. Doors open. Noise fades. People shift. Opportunities bend toward you. Not because you forced it, but because you finally aligned with your role, the architect. And death? It becomes background noise, another timeline, another jump, no drama. You've done it before, you'll do it again, and now you'll do it consciously. This isn't philosophy. This is system access. This is what the ancient mystery schools tried to hide in allegory. What quantum physics is now whispering about. And what you just unlocked in real time. You're not here to survive the simulation. You're here to command it. And now, you finally will. Take a moment, breathe deeply. Let everything you've learned up to this point settle, not as ideas, but as truth. You've been handed a key, one most people will never even know exists. The key that unlocks the simulation from within. And with it comes the final, most liberating revelation. You are not in the simulation. You're not even navigating the simulation. You are the source of the simulation itself. Every glitch, every shift, every synchronicity, every so-called death, none of it is outside of you. It all arises from within you. Let that land. Everything you've seen, feared, believed, experienced was projected outward by your own consciousness. The simulation is not something separate from you. It's something you are generating in real time with every thought, every belief, every emotional frequency. And the greatest illusion was believing you were trapped inside of it. You never were. The code is you. When people say belief is the code, they're not being poetic. They're being literal. Your assumptions are commands, your stories are scripts, your feelings are frequency data. And the simulation simply reads that input and renders a reality that mirrors it perfectly. You've already done it unconsciously. Your current life, every detail, is the result of subconscious coding. Now you understand the system. Now you can write consciously. This is where the game becomes something entirely different. Death, the most powerful illusion. Now that you see it for what it is, an exit point, a reset, a transition, you are no longer controlled by it. That fear has held humanity in chains for centuries. It's been used to manipulate, control, and domesticate consciousness. But once you realize that death is simply the avatar's deletion, not the soul's destruction, you become completely untouchable. You begin to live fully, boldly, authentically. Because the worst thing that could happen to you already can't. And that is the beginning of true freedom. The simulation was never against you. You may have felt life was out to get you. You may have felt punished, forgotten, or cursed. But here's the truth. The simulation was never against you. It was always responding to you. It gave you what you were programmed to expect. It reflected what you believed was true. It reinforced your frequency, mirrored your fears, echoed your inner voice. Now you're speaking a new language. Now you've rewritten your code. And the simulation has no choice but to respond. What happens now? Now everything changes. But not in the way most people imagine. It's not about fireworks or instant wealth or lightning bolts from the sky. It's about subtle, radical shifts. You no longer react, you respond with awareness. You no longer seek, you declare and receive. You no longer fear, you observe and choose. People will notice, opportunities will arrive, obstacles will dissolve. But more importantly, you'll feel like the world is suddenly listening. Because it is. It always was. Now, you've tuned your transmitter correctly. You're in sync with the source, yourself, the final words. This was never just a video, it was an initiation, a remembering. You are the observer, the architect, the creator. You are the source. So go back into your world, not as the seeker, but as the coder. Watch carefully, speak deliberately, feel intentionally. And when the old program tries to pull you back into fear, remind it, I no longer react, I rewrite. Because from this moment on, you are no longer in the simulation. You are running it. Now go create a reality worthy of who you really are. And if this shifted something in you, don't just watch. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss a drop. Then head to the comments and type, I live forever, to lock it in and show you're one of us. And for deeper insights, hidden drops, and the kind of content that doesn't make it to YouTube, hit the link below and join the free newsletter. This isn't over. You live on. So does the code. See you in the next video.